Well, hello to you and yours, friends, from our Champion Chevrolet Nevada Sportsnet studio. He's Chris Murray. I'm Mike Stephenson, and this is Nevada Sportsnet's Best of 2024 in Northern Nevada sports as we reach the final days of the year, Chris, and wrap up what was another heck of a year in local sports. Hard to believe as I look at our rundown. All of this happened. We're going to cover it all from Wolfpack to pros to preps, everything in between. Sit tight. We got an hour in a year in review show coming up right now.
Yeah, dozens of stories. If we forget your favorite story, you can email Mike. Just look up his email address on our website, NevadaSportsNet.com.
Sure. Yeah, I'll take the brunt of this, but I think, looking at my notes, I think we've got just about everything covered, so buckle up as we dive right into it, starting with a season that just wrapped up not too long ago. That would be Wolfpack football in the first year under new head coach Jeff Choate, who about a year ago vowed to launch this program after back-to-back seasons, winning just 2 games apiece. Well, sure enough, it ends up being a 3-10 overall record, Chris, winless in the Mountain West. 10 losses, looks bad. Boy, a lot of those were real nail-biting games, though. They were competitive, but they ended up on the bad side a lot of times.
It's definitely a better Nevada football team than we had seen the previous 2 seasons, despite all 3 of those seasons ending with 10 losses. You see this game against SMU. That opened the season. SMU ended up top 10 in the nation. Nevada had that game won until the very end, and that was the theme of a lot of the season. The Wolfpack goes 2-6 in one-possession games, including close losses to Boise State and SMU, 2 top 10 teams in the country. So while it wasn't the launch Jeff Choate had promised, I think it was progress, and I think it did show that Jeff Choate is potentially the guy to get this program back to that bowl and championship level.
If you listen to him all season long, you can tell he has got his feet set here in the biggest little city and has big aspirations for silver and blue football. We visited with Coach Choate all season long on Wolfpack All Access. Here is a snippet from our final interview of the season as he wrapped a bow on Wolfpack football in 2024.
Early, I would say we probably exceeded expectations in terms of our competitiveness, and then late, I was disappointed. And a lot of that has to do with things that were not always within our control in terms of maybe the quality of opponents that we're playing and or the available guys that we have on our roster. But I think that there's always a silver lining. Like within the struggles, you have the opportunity to lay yourself bare, and you have to really confront all of the weaknesses and all of the things that the chinks in your armor. And I've got a pretty long list that we're going to have to address. And the idea isn't that we're going to go fix these 100 things that we got to get right. The idea is that we're going to improve in all of them, and we're going to fix the ones that matter the most. And so there's going to be some honest conversations. There's going to be some hard conversations. And I am hopeful and excited for the future here. And I'm excited about the young men that are going to sign on the 4th. And I'm excited about getting an off season where I'm not just learning these guys' names, where I know who they are and I know maybe a little bit better what buttons to push and what we need to do to drive this thing forward.
All right, so Coach Choate was alluding to the next signing class, which we have a list of at NevadaSportsNet.com. Ultimately, 3-10, again, on paper looks bad. I kept saying all year it was kind of one of those you can't have your cake and eat it too kind of seasons for Nevada fans because if they win a lot of these games, suddenly the expectations are sky high. But there is a little bit of a glimmer of hope in that Jeff Choate can really turn this thing around.
Yeah, I think he's a very good football coach. I think just a lot of self-inflicted wounds. I mean, penalties were a huge theme in a lot of those losses, or an ill-timed turnover, or a mental mistake, or an inability to finish offensively in the 4th quarter. That could have been a 6 or 7 win team against the second hardest schedule Nevada's faced in the FBS. Unfortunately, just too many mistakes throughout the game, and specifically the 4th quarter to close out some of those victories.
Well, of course, you know we covered the heck out of this football team, not just on the field, but off of it as well. One of the cool stories of the year was a local product coming back to the biggest little city. Here's our feature on Truckee's Marcus Bellin.
Marcus Bellin has found his way home.
Out of high school, this is somewhere where I wanted to come. Didn't work out, so I'm glad that it worked out now.
The one-time Truckee Wolverine star first took his game to Southern Utah, but did not suit up for the Thunderbirds. He would eventually turn a standout season at Santa Barbara City College into an opportunity at the University of Texas, El Paso.
Loved it, met a lot of great people, had a great time, had some great coaches. It really helped me improve my game.
Bellin up the sideline, Bellin dives, he's in, touchdown UTEP!
I learned a lot, made a lot of good friends that I'll be friends with forever.
After a coaching change with the Miners, Bellin was back on the market, catching the eyes of the Wolfpack with his dynamic receiving and return game, and eventually, his name.
I called him, I think, Mason or something 3 times on the first interview that we had.
The kid from UTEP, from Truckee, Mason, that kid had a heck of a night.
Mason! What? Mason's here.
His name's Marcus now, we all know. He scored a touchdown for us.
Slings it right side. Bell into the goal line. Touchdown, Nevada. And touchdown, Truckee.
Touchdown, Truckee.
It's a great story, and you can tell he loves being a part of this thing, and he's a really tough, competitive kid, and we're happy to have him.
I've always wanted to play here. No better time than with Coach Choate.
I love Marcus. He's a great guy, great character. I just love being around him, and he's really smart. He just gets into spots where I didn't expect him to do it, but it makes my job a lot easier, and that just comes with him being experienced. He wants to compete. When the ball's in the air, he wants to go get it. I can tell he's straining.
I can't even explain how Marcus approaches the game because it's so professional. Sometimes I'll leave the huddle and it's so much going on in the play, and he'll just communicate with me. Hey, remember this? And I'm like, I appreciate that, bro. He always knows what he's doing. He's always taking notes in the room, and he's just a leader in the room.
Instead of building from the ground up, Bellin joined the Wolfpack as a well-rounded weapon after he had only played quarterback for Truckee, where the town stops when the Wolverines are in action.
Bellin rolling out.
Football is everything in that community.
He stays open, stays free, dives for the pylon. Did he get it? Touchdown, Truckee Wolverines.
A lot of those old-timers especially live for those Saturdays. They've been going there the last 50 years of their life. They've got a great culture there, a great tradition. It would be nice to start growing the connection between Nevada and Truckee.
The local kids have got to be a core of what you do because they've got to be able to make sure that the guys that aren't necessarily from here understand how important it is.
It's been awesome because I get to hang out with my friends on the team, and then also some of my friends that I grew up with.
And now number 18 is growing on Nevada fans. Small in stature, but huge in heart.
Don't let others tell you what you can't do. Keep going. There's always going to be people that doubt you, so you can't doubt yourself. Because if you doubt yourself, it's already over.
Man, good stuff from Marcus. He's going to be a huge part of the core returners of the 2025 Wolfpack come next fall. Let's transition quickly now and get into Nevada men's basketball. Really strong season in Steve Alford's 5th year at the helm. 26 wins to just 8 losses. But unfortunately, everybody looks back at the 2023-24 year and looks back at that NCAA tournament loss to Dayton. With that said, Chris, there was a lot of great things that happened in the lead up to March Madness, including back-to-back wins against ranked teams, also getting into the AP poll.
Yeah, I mean, this was the best program on campus in 2024. And you're right. I mean, the sour ending to a very sweet season will maybe be remembered the most. And now Steve Alford, 6 years at Nevada, just 2-7 in the postseason. So that's the next step. He's got the best program on campus. Can they take it to the next level in 2025? Can they win a Mountain West championship, something they haven't done? Can they advance in the postseason? Can they get to a Mountain West tournament championship game? Can they get back to the big dance? A lot of questions, but a lot to be proud of if you're a Wolfpack men's basketball player or staff member based on what they were able to do last season, despite the fact that they lost a 17-point lead to Dayton in the last 8 minutes of that tournament.
ESPN ranked it the most devastating loss in all of March Madness. Sure enough, Silver and Blue fans, they're seasoned now. They're hardened, and they can go through anything, I guess, at this point. So we'll see what the Pack has in store as we turn the calendar to 2025. Let's transition now and talk Nevada's women. 16-16 overall, 10-8 within the Mountain West Conference. Lost to CSU in the quarterfinals of the tournament. March is still leaving a lot to be desired for this program.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Amanda Levin, 7 seasons, the last 6 they've gone to the Mountain West Tournament quarterfinals, and that's where their run has ended. So can you take that next step as a program, get to a semifinal, maybe get to a WNIT? But they played a lot of close games. It was a very entertaining team to watch, and they finished tied for 4th in a pretty competitive Mountain West as well. Now, this season hasn't gotten off to quite as strong of a start, but maybe that changes once you get into conference play, programs you're a little bit more familiar with.
We will have to see, as Nevada did return its top 7 scores, but as Chris said, still kind of working things out here in the early part of the 24-25 season. Well, I'll tell you what, this might help both teams level up, as in 2024 we got to get ourselves, and the team, of course, got inside the new Eric and Linda Lannis basketball buildings. Equal infrastructure for both the men's and women's programs. This is obviously now puts them toward the top of the country when you're talking about basketball facilities, Chris.
It's super cool. A $12 million building. I think it's awesome that it's both a men's and a women's building that both equally get to prosper, as you mentioned. And it is huge in the recruiting game and the retention game. So, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about infrastructure improvements at Nevada. There need to be a ton, but basketball has taken a step forward. And what is the next step? Maybe that $400 million arena at the Grand Sierra Resort property. But this was the biggest project that actually got to completion in 2024 for the Wolfpack.
It is really, really nice in there. So yes, the Wolfpack basketball teams, both of them leveling up here in 2024. All right, coming up next on our Best of 2024 show, we look around the rest of Wolfpack land, including some epic individual efforts, and we're hitting the diamond as well. That's coming up right after this. Back here on NSN's Best of 2024 show. He's Chris Murray. I'm Mike Stephenson. We just covered, of course, Wolfpack football and basketball. We're going to take a look around the rest of Wolfpack land now, starting over at Peccole Park and year 2 under Jake McKinley leading Nevada baseball. A lot of improvement, 25-26, the overall record, 2 games above 500 in Mountain West play. Weird kink in the schedule and how it works in the Mountain West tournament, Chris. They just barely miss out on some tiebreaker rules. But the kind of improvement Pac baseball fans wanted to see in year 2 under Coach McKinley.
So the top 4 teams out of the 7-team conference get to the Mountain West tournament. Nevada was tied for 3rd with 2 other teams, so they unfortunately got the short stick and didn't get to go to the Mountain West tournament. I think this is a team in 2025 that can win a Mountain West championship, can get back to the NCAA tournament. I think Jake McKinley has kind of got the program in the right spot, and they actually have a new $2 million playing surface out there at Peccole as well. So if you go catch a game out at the ball yard, it's going to look a little bit different than this video.
That's right, a new playing surface and a new Tom Dolan locker room on deck as well. Rest in peace to Tom Dolan. What an incredible supporter he was of Wolfpack baseball and all of Nevada athletics. Let's go across the street now over to Hickson and talk a little Nevada softball. It was an epic year under interim head coach Marina DeMore. How about a 40-17 overall record, 14-8 within the Mountain West. They overperformed some of those preseason expectations, Chris, but did come up a little short in the Mountain West tourney.
Yeah, so haven't made it to the NCAA tournament since 2009, but this was one of the best teams in program history. You got Tyra Clary right there. The pitching was phenomenal. The hitting was phenomenal. Just like you said, came up a little bit short in the conference tournament. Unfortunately for Marina DeMore, the interim head coach, did not get the full-time gig. They shifted over to Washington assistant Victoria Hayward, who will lead the program this upcoming season. But this has been one of the really good programs on campus the last couple of years. It's definitely trending in the right direction.
I think a lot of folks are excited to see what Coach Hayward can do. She does have some experience as an assistant within the Mountain West, and so we'll be back out and covering her squad come spring of 2025. Staying with softball and one of the best individual efforts of the entire Wolfpack athletic season, that'd be courtesy of Gabby Herrera, the one-time Oregon transfer, finishing her collegiate career strong. About a school record 17 home runs, helping lead her to become the Mountain West Player of the Year. Rare air for Pac softball.
Yeah, first Player of the Year for a Nevada softball player since 2008. You got to go all the way to back to the WAC. So it's been 16 years. And Gabby will stay with the program. She's actually going to be the Director of Operations under Coach Hayward. She was one of 2 Conference Players of the Year for Nevada, the other being diver Melissa Mirafuente. So congratulations to both of them. It's really cool to be able to say you were the best player in your conference in a given year.
That's such a great call. All right, let's talk a little men's golf now as we get out onto the links and put the spotlight on one Enrique Dimayuga. His time here was short, but boy was it sweet. No Nevada men's golfer had ever won back-to-back events. All the FAU transfer did was win 3 straight. It got him to an NCAA regional, Chris, and then it eventually got him to a different school.
Yeah, now going to be at SMU in 2025. So it was a one-semester wonder for the Wolfpack. He won those 3 tournaments in a 13-day span. It's probably the best 2-week period for any Wolfpack athlete ever. Had one of the best seasons in program history. He had to kind of play some extra tournaments just to be qualified for the NCAA championships. So he went to the Stanford Regional. He tied for 14th there. Didn't quite make it to the NCAA championships, but I think that was a big motivation in the transfer. He wants to play at the NCAA championship level. And when you play at some of these bigger schools, these tournaments that you're playing for help you get a little bit of a professional rating to maybe get, maybe not on the PGA Tour, but a secondary tour. So yeah, unfortunately, Enrique only here for a semester, but did a wonderful job.
Oh, and he knew. I talked to him after he left, and he knew that Nevada got him to where he is now and his success here. So he's forever grateful to the Wolfpack. But as you said, professional opportunities with a springboard like SMU and a city like Dallas, it was something he could not turn down. Let's go to the ladies' side now. Not to be outdone, Leah John, who wrapped up one of the greatest careers in Nevada women's golf history. She also won a trio of tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, some of those were in 2003, but we're going to counter because the season spills over to 2024. And you're right. I mean, she had a phenomenal career here at Nevada. Nevada women's golf has kind of been defined by her and Victoria Gailey, who both roommates and teammates for a long, long time. Leah had one more year of eligibility, and she was, as that CG says, stellar this season.
All right, how about over on the tennis courts now, and a bit of history just recently made, especially for one Youssef Kadiri, as he made it to the NCAA national tournament as an individual. That had never happened before on campus.
Yeah, a little bit different situation because now they moved the NCAA championships for individuals to the fall season. So in November, they held the individual championships, and he was able to make it. Unfortunately, he did draw the number 3 player in the country in Colton Smith and wasn't able to win that one to advance. But he's got a really cool story. Originally from Morocco, did his high school tennis around 16 years old, moved to Nice, France, then went to Oregon to play college, then came to Nevada. Actually had a bunch of injuries that he had to overcome about 18 months ago, almost quit the sport, but persevered through, was able to get to the NCAAs as an individual, and then this upcoming spring 2025, going to try to get the Wolfpack as a team to the NCAA, something they did the year before he had actually committed to Nevada.
Those are the stories we like to cover, right?
Yeah.
We lead with how well he did on the court, but then you get to tell us exactly how he got to that point. We have a full feature with Yusuf over at NevadaSportsNet.com. Wrapping a bow on other Wolfpack sports, talking a little about Nevada volleyball. First-year head coach Shannon Wyckoff McNeil. It's a 12-17 overall record, 5-13 within the Mountain West. Kind of a tale of, I don't want to say 2 full halves of the season, Chris, but they started really strong.
Yes.
Sputtered a little bit, and it was kind of around that forfeiture of the San Jose State game, which if you're just now tuning into the Mountain West volleyball coverage this season, the Spartans allegedly fielded a transgender player. A lot of teams forfeited their match against San Jose State this year. That included Nevada, and it felt like it kind of rattled them after that.
I mean, it was a dominating story for all of Northern Nevada sports for a couple of weeks, if not even a month and a half, and really even rose to the national level with some of the Wolfpack players taking national interviews to talk about why they forfeited that match against San Jose State. And Nevada, from the university side, said that they had to continue to play the match unless they couldn't field a team. Eventually couldn't field a team. But you are right. I mean, they started 11-8, which was huge for a program that had really struggled before Wyckoff McNeil was hired, and then 1-9 in the last 10 matches. So that was really the turning point in the season. But I do think Shannon Wyckoff McNeil showed she can maybe get this program back to where it was under Devin Scruggs competing for NCAA tournament berth.
So we'll see how 2024 can act as a springboard for year 2 under Coach Wyckoff McNeil. You mentioned Melissa Mirafuentes. We don't have video of her, but boy, she's got a lot of accolades in her trophy case. That includes, most recently, Mountain West Diver of the Year for a 3rd time.
For a 3rd time. First 2 at Wyoming, last one at Nevada. Went to the NCAAs. Was one of 10 athletes in the entire country to qualify for all 3 diving disciplines, the 1 meter, the 3 meter, and the platform. So a fantastic career, partially here, partially out there in Laramie.
I don't know. I think Nevada might be a diving school. Let's just call it what it is. Shout out to Coach Jin Lee Yu. All right, coming up next here on our Best of 2024 show, how did our local participants fare in the professional ranks? Of course, it was an Olympic year, and some medals made their way back to the Truckee Meadows. We'll talk about that and more next. Back here on our Best of 2024 show as we wrap up the year. Hard to believe. Let's dive in now to some of our locals and the pros. We can't include everyone, and so the cream has risen to the top, if you will. Let's start with the Paris Olympic Games and the Reno High product. Luke Hobson, already a multi-time national champion in the pool, Chris, over at the University of Texas. He's got a couple of Olympic medals now to boast about, as the 200 free is his specialty, and he got it done with the relay and individually.
Yeah, I mean, he was fantastic. He got a bronze medal in the 200 freestyle, and then in the 4x200 relay, he got a silver medal. He also set a world record in the short course just a couple of weeks ago, so he's continuing on his season. World championships, Olympic medals, he's doing everything, and still has one more year here at Texas that he's going to finish off, so I'm sure he'll add a couple of more NCAA titles. For me, he's the #1 athlete from Reno Tahoe in the 2024 season.
Hard to argue with that, although, if you can tell by his facial expressions, he was a little bummed, I think, to get the bronze in the 200 free, which is his specialty, and that was a really tight race. Nonetheless, you end up on the podium. Boy, you did something that many cannot do. He came back to Reno High to celebrate his achievement with some of the current Husky students, and we caught up with him there.
I would say it's been more of a dream my whole life, and not really something that I thought I could really accomplish, but something I would shoot for and work towards. But like my senior year of high school, I went to the Olympic trials to try and qualify and finish towards the end of my events, but it was super inspiring still, and kind of put my head down for the next 3-4 years and worked at it, and ended up winning at trials and got to go to my first Olympic Games, and super special, and just shows you if you think you can do something, you dream about it, you want it enough, you can achieve that goal.
I think it's safe to say in 2028 here stateside, he'll be back in the field for the Olympic Games.
He was kind of a late bloomer, too. I mean, this was not a guy who at a young age knew that he was going to be even a college-level athlete. Yeah. This next person we were talking about, not a late bloomer. Everybody knew she was very special from a young age.
Talked about Luke Hobson being the top athlete of 2024. Gabby Williams may be one of the best ever to come out of our region. Of course, maybe you've heard, suiting up for Team France. They were the host team in the Olympics, and boy, they gave Team USA all it could handle. Chris, a 1-point loss in the gold medal game, but Gabby gets a silver to add to her bronze from the previous Olympics.
And she was the reason they even got to the gold medal game in the semifinal, beat Belgium in overtime. She played huge there. She played huge in the gold medal match, 19 points. And then she was named to the All-5 Olympic team. Those are your 5 best players, and she was named the Defensive Player of the Year for the Olympics as well. So capped her season coming back to the WNBA as well. She had spent a lot of time overseas internationally, but came back and played for the Seattle Storm. So might have been a little bit under the radar as a great women's basketball player because she hadn't been playing a ton in the WNBA. Not so at the end of 2020.
She was all over that Olympic coverage. It was so cool to see her getting all kinds of headlines and all over the social media feeds and whatnot. So Gabby, how about that? A silver medalist at the Paris Games. We're not done. Back to Reno High and over to the rugby pitch, where Team USA for the first time ever claimed a medal. It was a bronze for the Sevens, and they feature Stephanie Ravetti out of Reno High.
There she is, number 10, bottom right, and she actually played a huge role in being able to secure the ball, pitching it back to a teammate who then ran the length of the field to beat Australia, a last-second score to win 14-12. Team USA was a major underdog in that match, so getting up on the podium with a gigantic upset.
It was essentially like a buzzer beater, the equivalent of a buzzer beater in rugby. That's how that's how Team USA and Stephanie Ravetti won the bronze medal, and we had her in studio not long later to talk about that epic accomplishment.
We had that bronze medal match, and it seems like for the moment from that last second try to now, it's just been like a whirlwind, and but such a great time. Something that we sat in meeting rooms for 3 years talking about why do we want to win a medal. What do we want to do at Paris? And a big part of it was like, we want to create a legacy for American rugby, and something that's so new, and America doesn't really have a brand of rugby yet. It's dominated by Australia and New Zealand, and we really wanted to create more opportunities for young girls. And so this build-up of the event, and we were in Paris, and they did a phenomenal job. Just the athletes that you saw and the fans that were at the stadium was sold out. It was incredible. The atmosphere was incredible, and so everything kind of leading up to this pinnacle moment in games felt really, really big.
That really was a pinnacle moment in red, white, and blue rugby. They're going to be looking back on that team for a lot of years, and Steph Ravetti, the former college basketball player, was a really big part of it. So shout out to Reno High doing big things at the Olympics. As we wrap it up with a Reed alum, though, as Paris got it done in Paris. Paris Benegas, coming off a 4th place finish at the Tokyo Games, gets sweet redemption in BMX, Chris, with a nice silver medal.
Yeah, 0.7 points away from getting on the podium in Tokyo 3 years ago, and then she tears her ACL in 2023. So this is maybe my favorite story of the year, her being able to come back from that, being able to get the silver medal with a 90.7 point run. She is really one of the pioneers in her sport, and really great to see everything that she has been through and how close she was in Tokyo, be able to persevere and be able to win that silver medal.
She said she had only gotten on the back on the bike like a couple months before the Olympics, I think in May. And so for that to be added to this story, it just shows how epic that achievement was for Paris Benegas, who calls North Carolina home nowadays, but she is the pride of Reed High School. All right, let's look elsewhere in some of the major sports leagues, and a major contract for the McQueen High alum Brandon Ayuk. He held out during training camp, a little stalemate with the San Francisco 49ers. Ultimately, he gets to sign for $120 million over 4 years, Chris. That's big time.
Quite a roller coaster of 2024 for Brandon Ayuk. He plays in his first Super Bowl with that huge catch in the NFC Championship game over the Lions. Then he has to hold out to get that $120 million. By far the richest contract any Northern Nevada alum has ever signed. And then this year starts a little bit slow and then tears his ACL. So he'll be coming back from a major injury. But that's why you hold out, because you need that money in football, because you never know what's going to happen. Got some other guys in the NFL. Another McQueen High alum, Kyle Van Noy. He's had a tremendous 2024, set a career high in sacks. And then you saw Joel Bitonio, the Wolfpack alum, his 6th Pro Bowl berth earlier in 2004. So some really cool things happening for locals in the NFL.
And then Deion Henley on the defensive side of the ball is a name to remember, as he is sort of a rising star in his 2nd season with the LA Chargers. Transition now and talk a little pro baseball. Robbie Snelling was maybe our top athlete in 2023, right? Chris was the minor league pitcher of the year as part of the Padres organization. Oh, the trade deadline came, though, and Robbie went to Florida as part of the Miami Marlins organization now. And he got to make his AAA debut toward the end of the year.
So 2025, let's see Robbie make it up to the big leagues. He's still a pretty young guy, 21 years old during the latest minor league season, but he's definitely knocking on the door to get up to the big league level at a very young age. And also want to give a shout out to Trenton Brooks. He's the former Nevada baseball player, 9 years in the minor leagues, eventually and finally made his big league debut this year with the Giants. That's great resiliency to see almost a decade after he's drafted finally make it up to the bigs.
Could have hung it up so many different times, and he didn't. Sure enough, he ends up in the show. And so shout out to Trenton, and then we'll see what Robbie can do in 2025, one of our local favorites to cover. Quick note on the Octagon and a couple local participants this year. Peyton Talbot and Mario Bautista, both bantamweight fighters, both went 2-0 in 2024. Peyton's a younger one, more of a rising star, now 9-0 within pro MMA. Mario Bautista out of Winnemucca, 15-2 overall. He just beat Jose Aldo and moved into the top 10. There's a chance Mario out of the muck gets a title bout in the near future.
And that would be well-deserved. He's been at it a long time, Peyton a little bit younger to the sport, but I feel like he has the look and the charisma to potentially be a UFC superstar. So both those guys are going to watch out for them in 2025.
We'll see Talbot fighting January 18th over there in Inglewood at the new Intuit Dome. We'll be keeping tabs on them all of 2025. All right, coming up next, we're going to go from the pros to the preps. A bunch of state champions being celebrated in Northern Nevada in 2024. We're going to recap them all next. Mike and Chris back with you here as we recap a heck of a year in Northern Nevada sports, talking a little high school action now and starting on the prep gridiron, and with a back-to-back effort, give it up to Bishop Manogue, the Miners, for a second straight season, taking down Faith Lutheran in the 5A2 state championship game. Of course, realignment over the last 2 years gave Northern Nevada teams some better opportunities. Chris, Galena, the Grizzlies, back-to-back years in the 5A3 championship game, they fall short. Truckee was going for a three-peat in the 3A. They fall short to Slam Academy, but Persian County caps a perfect season in the 2A. All in all, if you get a couple football championships coming up north, that's a successful year.
I think that was the whole point of realignment, was to give some more opportunity to the schools from Northern Nevada to go out there and win state championships. Obviously, Bishop Manogue is taking advantage of that. Ernie Howard had to wait a long, long time. Keep trying to go through Bishop Gorman, wasn't happening. So you go to the 5A2 level, and now you have the cream of the crop there. There were some really competitive games in the Northern Nevada level at the 5A2. I mean, Reed almost upset Manogue during the regular season. So I think some really good stuff there. Very disappointing for Truckee to not be able to cap off that three-peat after they won, what, like 34 35 straight games. And then Pershing County kind of been a powerhouse for a long time at the 2A level, and they were able to get back to that state championship game for the first time in a little bit. So yeah, really, really successful high school football season, and nice to see Ernie Howard, one of the good guys in the business, finally be able to raise that trophy a couple times over the last 2 years.
You can say that again. We'll see what the future of realignment looks like, because it was a 2-year plan, so things could get shaken up in 2025. But you know we covered the heck out of that season and all of those state championship games. Let's hear from the victorious Miners and Mustangs.
That game at times did not go our way early, and they just kept fighting and kept fighting. Offensively, we turned the ball over a couple times. We came out in the second half, and the first drive, we turned it over again, and they just kept stopping them.
We've gone to state 3 times and winning 2 out of 3. That's really good. And it just means a lot playing with these guys and winning it for our senior year.
It means a lot. We made it to the state championship game last year and didn't finish. A lot of these guys' brothers played on state championship teams, so they've been dying to get one, and so they finally pulled it off. Both sides were very excited just to see where we stood. We had both sides had a lot of blowouts this season, so both teams were excited to play a tough game, and it certainly was.
I watched my brother win 3 of them, and ever since I was a kid, I just wanted to be here playing in this game. I wanted it more than the world. This is the biggest moment of my life right now. It was awesome.
Loud noises. Shout out to the ponies from out there in Lovelock getting it done in the 2A. I tell you what, though, when you look at the whole landscape of the prep season, I think some of the best and biggest storylines were actually on the high school girls basketball court. If you could believe that, Chris, I think it led off with the Lowry gals making it a three-peat. What a run for the Buckaroos, as frankly, Fernley never wants to see Lowry ever again. But such is life for the Vaqueros as the Bucks celebrate 3 in a row. We saw Manogue win its first state title in 20 years, and then Pyramid Lakes gals, after being without a state title for some 40 years, won 2 in a row.
Yeah, I mean, Pyramid Lake was dominant. I mean, average margin of victory this year by 30 points. Hadn't won one since 1981, and then back-to-back. Lowry, that's such a cool story. A great basketball community. Savannah Stoker, who we're going to treat you to a little bit of a feature with her coming up here, but she was phenomenal in that championship game as Lowry rallied back from 10 points down in the second half, and then Bishop Manogue finally getting over the hump. And that was an interesting story because then they fired their head coach, and that was very controversial. But just in terms of on the court, Bishop Manogue winning that 4A championship and being the by far and away the best team at that level, beating Spanish Springs in the title game.
Let's hear from the ladies who were victorious in 2024.
When you have Savannah and Britt, there's no quit in them. And you know they're going to step up and rise to the challenge and get it done. And then our other players, our role players, they stepped up too. Like, I could not be more proud of them as well. Bryce hitting all those threes, she kept us in that game. So it was a huge team effort from everybody on our team.
12 years ago, I won it with the Reed girls, and we had to beat Reno High for 4 times. So I've been here before, so I knew what it was going to take to beat another great team 4 times. But this team's special. Like I said before, they work so hard defensively. We had the post, we had the guards, we had the shooter. They're just a fun group of girls to coach.
Something I've been waiting for ever since I got a chance to step on the floor at state sophomore year. And we lost, I just knew I wanted it again, so it feels really good to finally accomplish that.
A lot of hard work, you know, so a lot of good teams out there, and so we'll take it, you know, next year we'll take it, but we're definitely going to celebrate tonight, and back-to-back's definitely tremendous, and we'll definitely shoot for a three-peat if that arises.
We'll have to see the Lakers on their way to perhaps doing it in 2025. You know, we'll be keeping tabs on all of that. How about for the boys? Not a ton of state championships to boast about, but some really fun stories, including Damani Ranch reaching the championship game for the first time in its history. Of course, we're in the 4A now. The Reno boys were the regional champs, but Damani got to that state final. Give it up for Eureka, though.
Yeah.
Won it in football in 23, Chris. Pretty much the same group of guys got it done in basketball in 24.
Yeah, a lot of overlap with the rosters and the same head coach. So that was
That's
a really cool story that kind of capped in 2024. And in terms of Damani Ranch, first banner they've been able to hang in boys basketball in the history of that school, which is now more than 20 years old. So that's got to be a great feeling for all the players on that
Their
team.
coach Brian Voiles ended up being his swan song as his son Dylan Voiles has now taken over the Mustang program. So a really cool story there. How about a little prep baseball as well? Of course, for a lot of years, it's sort of been Reno and Bishop Manogue battling back and forth for that regional crown. Ended up being the Huskies claiming it this year, as you see the celebration over there at Piccoli Park. So they won the regional, ended up losing in the state final. That kind of ends up being the story a lot of the years, as the southern squads are always a little bit stronger.
But I mean, kudos to them for staying at the 5A level. So some of these
point.
sports that we're talking about, they drop down a level. That does make the road to a state championship a little bit easier. When we talk about baseball and we talk about softball, they stayed at the tip-top level in their sport in the state. And if Reno had dropped down, they probably would have won. But very competitive. That regional championship game was an epic, with them getting a final out with the bases loaded there in the 7th.
That's right. Now on high school softball, all eyes were on the Douglas Tigers after they got it done in 2023 behind the back-to-back Gatorade Player of the Year and Talia Trenton. They get back to the state final, but they end up losing down south in 2024. Nonetheless, epic run for them the last few years.
Kind of the golden era of Douglas softball. 3 straight state championship game berths. Unfortunately, only won the middle of those 3, but a ton to be proud of. And Talia Trenton out there at Iowa, we'll be tracking her, as she is going to be, I think, a big-time player at the college level too.
Speaking of being a big-time player, Chris talked about it a second ago, Savannah Stoker, one of the all-time great local prep careers, including setting a record as far as home runs go. We're talking about her as a basketball player, but she did it on the softball diamond as well. We featured her story earlier this year.
On the court, or on the dirt, Lowry Savannah Stoker is rewriting the Nevada record books. Less than 2 months after helping Buckaroos basketball win a 3rd straight state championship, Stoker crushing her 47th career home run. Putting her atop the state's all-time list.
When it comes off my bat on the sweet spot, I have a feeling that it's going to go over, but I never doubt it, so I still hustle. I knew I just had to run it out and wait and to see if it went over the fence or not, and then it was kind of a relief when it went over the fence.
Stoker hitting a historic home run with her family in attendance, the latest monumental moment in her epic prep career.
There's so many, hitting a home run record. She beat the 3A record here this year. I've been proud of basketball, proud of her. She's had some good teammates. She's always honored her teammates. That's what makes me proud.
There's a lot of them. I think her 3 state championships in basketball. Last year, her single season home run record, and then now her all-career record is, I think those are going to be the most memorable.
A piling up of accolades, Stoker's dad, David, admits that he kind of saw it coming.
I knew she was something special because she could use both of her hands. She could shoot with both of her hands at that young age. And I mean, even the coaches that coached her when she was very young in softball, you know, they looked at her and said she was a one-generational player. And we've witnessed that all the way through her stages of up to now.
As the Lowry legend heads into the final weeks of her time as a Buckaroo, she has her sights set on even more.
My other goal is to now go after my career record that I set last year, 21 home runs in a season. So my next goal is to see how far I can get with that this year.
And the at-bats are numbered for Nevada's Sportsnet's reigning Female Athlete of the Year, with Stoker planning to play basketball in college. At McQueen High School, Nikki Pica, Nevada Sportsnet.
Yeah, once again, that feature courtesy of our Nikki Pica. Stoker now suiting up for the College of Southern Idaho. We'll see if she turns that into maybe a Division I opportunity. We'll
I mean, I think she could come back to Nevada at some point. Maybe Boise State, I know they've had interest, but she is a once-in-generation kind of athlete with what she was able to do both in basketball and softball.
So cool to see how proud her dad and her gramps were of her accomplishments. She was a fun one to cover. Shout out to every individual and every team that was able to celebrate, whether regional championships or any wins, really, state championships, all of the above. Chris compiled lists of all your regional and state champions. You can see it at NevadaSportsNet.com because I know we didn't mention everyone, but we certainly appreciate you. All right, coming up next here on this Year in Review show, the best of 2024. Heck of a season of ace ball, and we were all over it. We're recapping that year next. We are continuing to recap the best of 2024 in Northern Nevada sports, talking ace ball now. 15th season for the Boys of Summer in downtown Reno. Boy, the second half was the story here, Chris. How about a franchise record 12-game winning streak propelling the Aces to that second half crown and back to the PCL Championship Series?
Yeah, it was interesting. So the winner of the first half plays the winner of the second half in that PCL Championship Series. And the Aces didn't have a great first half, but 12-game winning streak to start your second half will put you in a really good driver's seat to be able to play in that Championship Series, which they did. Went to Sugar Land. Unfortunately, lost to the Space Cowboys 2-0. The Bats didn't show up for that series, but they showed up for most of the season, and there were a lot of thrilling moments. A ton of walk-offs in that 12-game winning streak, which was a franchise record.
Nash Walker got to get real loud on that play-by-play. One of our friends of the program. You talk about being ready to play every day, though. Adrian Del Castillo lived up to that, and he ends up being the PCL MVP. Also got to make his Major League debut.
And he did a great job in the Major League, so I think a bright future for ADC. He's a catcher, but hit .312 with 26 home runs in 105 games with the Aces to become the first PCL MVP for Reno since 2017 when Christian Walker did it. Two other guys had done it, Adam Eaton, Chris Owings. They all had pretty long MLB careers. So we probably will see a little bit of Adrian Del Castillo in 2025, but my guess is he's going to spend a good chunk of time up there in Phoenix with the Diamondbacks.
Hit a grand slam when he was back at home playing against the Miami Marlins. And you mentioned Christian Walker just got a nice $60 million deal with the Houston Astros. So ace ball can get you to greener pastures eventually, if you will. Of course, we don't cover just what happens on the diamond. Maybe the biggest story of the ace ball season came off of it and before first pitch when the skipper, Aces manager Blake Lawley, who was a former Aces player, just weeks before the season, donated a kidney to his ailing girlfriend, a local product by the name of Aaliyah Hartung. They got to celebrate their epic achievement as a Home Run for Life honoree. This is all in partnership with Donor Network West. Blake said he didn't flinch when he saw that his girlfriend needed help. He got tested, and they were a very unlikely match. Sure enough, it goes down, and it's successful.
Yeah, a long shot that he would even be a match and a very selfless thing to be able to do. So that was probably the coolest story besides the wins and losses.
We have featured that story pretty heavily. You can see more on that at NevadaSportsNet.com. They are two really awesome people actually going to be honored on New Year's Day at the Rose Parade. They're going to be on a float, so congrats to them. Well, you know, you ultimately need a baseball to play the game of baseball. And one of the fun features we did as we covered the team all year long on Aces All In was we chronicled the journey of a baseball. Here's Nevada Sportsnet's Zach Larson.
Hey guys, we're here with visiting clubhouse manager Nick Marenberga, and he has a very special story to share with us today about how the balls at Greater Nevada Field are prepared before every game. Nick, walk me through the process. Where are we at first?
So right now we're out by the humidor. This is a big, important part of the process for getting the balls ready. Essentially, we go right in here. There will be a bunch of our balls here. There's probably about 2,000 balls in here right now. We have to load this up on off weeks to get these ready to go. There's 12 here for each box. So total, I would say about 2,000 baseballs in here right now. The process of the humidor is to keep these balls at a good rate and playable for game competition. All right, and let's go get the balls ready for the game.
All right, Nick, we're outside the doors of the visiting clubhouse. This is kind of where all the magic happens. Walk me through what happens next once the balls have gone through the humidor and now you guys are prepping the balls for game day.
Yes, so essentially when we do get the balls out to the humidor, they have to sit out there for the 14 days to make sure they're regulated, but then we will bring them back the day of the game. It has to be 3 hours prior to first pitch or after that they have to be rubbed up. So we'll come back into here and our team will start rubbing up balls. It'll take about an hour and a half total, if I had to say, to get the 16 dozen balls properly rubbed. Yeah, essentially you're going to want to get a pretty good scoop onto your fingers out of that mud right there. That's the black shear mud that we use for the balls. I usually use my left palm or fingers to kind of create just an even drag through the white parts of the ball. I try to keep it to the point where I get a good, even, consistent rub through the ball.
When would you say it's done?
So I would then say if my bat boys are like, hey, is this good? Yeah. I'd be like, yeah, it feels good. I would kind of give it a rub through myself to make sure that it's even, and then I'd say, yeah, we're good.
Nice. There it is. A ball hopefully going to be used tonight.
Sure will. I'm tossing it in. So once these balls are all ready to go in those ball bags, my bat boys will be delivering the balls. The umpire will hang up 5 fingers. They need 5 balls. So those ball bags will be in the dugout. Bat boys grab the balls, bring them out to the umpire.
Well, Nick, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for showing us the process. We did actually catch up with the former Cy Young winner and a current Aces pitcher about the baseballs and their thoughts on the process.
I think pitchers are really picky, and I think it's a low-hanging fruit sometimes for pitchers to oh, the balls were slippery or whatever. But, I think we're really lucky to have somebody out here who takes good care of our baseballs.
Places where it's kind of dry and stuff, I think that's more of a problem than the ball. Just getting a good grip on the ball and stuff. But it's equalized or neutralized some of the stuff helping the pitchers out, or making it equal, not helping them out, but just kind of equaling the level of playing field.
You thought it came straight out of a box onto the field? You were wrong. Coming up next here on our Best of 2024 show, we're wrapping a bow on the year with some more epic moments, including on the links. That's next. Finishing things up here on our Best of 2024 special, and at the ACC, I think both of our favorite event to cover throughout the entire year. Marty Fish, after coming up short in 2023 to Steph Curry, gets sweet redemption in 2024. He was your pick to win the thing.
Yeah.
He was a lot of people's picks,
yeah,
and he got it done.
Pretty obvious pick. Probably should have won the year before, but somebody yelled in his backswing on the 18th, and Steph Curry was able to chase him down. No Steph this year because of the Olympics. Marty Fish was absolutely phenomenal. And Joe Pavelski, runner-up. I think he's going to win it one of these years. Recently retired from the NHL. He can focus a little bit more on his golf now.
ACC and the dramatics on Sunday have become so fun over the years. And, of course, you can't win the ACC and not jump in the lake. So Marty doing it right in 2024 over in South Lake. A week later, we were over at the Barracuda at Old Greenwood in Truckee. And Nick Dunlap, remember that name, 20 years old, recently turned pro, wins his first event, and there's more to come from him.
Yeah, so we were actually out there. We had our set out there, and Nick talked to us after the first round, came and sat down with us, and that's exactly why he won. It had nothing to do with how he played. We just gave him some good mojo, but he was actually named the PGA Rookie of the Year, the second youngest to ever do so. Won this event when he was just 20 years old. Actually, it began the year as a golfer at Alabama, turned pro halfway through the year, so a fantastic 2024 for him.
Sometimes going pro earlier can backfire, but sure enough, I think Nick Dunlap made the correct decision. Congrats to him. And staying at the Barracuda, the best storyline for us here locally was Ian Gilligan out of Galena High School. Didn't just make it to this event, he took that opportunity and ran with it, Chris, made the cut.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. And if you know his story, actually overcame cancer when he was at Galena High School, and now is a star golfer, a senior at Florida. He was actually able to play in the PGA Tour event in Las Vegas as well later in the year. Made the cut there with the top 20 finish. So he's got that 1 year left of college, but this guy's going to be on the tour sooner rather than later, and it was great to see more or less in his backyard him playing in his first PGA Tour event.
Really, really cool. And he didn't take that lightly. The pride of Galena High School. Remember that name, Ian Gilligan. Final note, let's do that hockey. Folks were excited when we learned the Tahoe Night Monsters would end up in Southlake at the new Tahoe Blue Event Center. The puck has been dropped, Chris, and we're playing.
ECHL team, so essentially like AA hockey, playing in the $100 million Tahoe Blue Event Center, the affiliate of the Vegas Golden Knights. They debuted in October. Could there be another minor league hockey team coming? The AHL team potentially going to the GSR. We will see, but we know for now the first fully pro hockey team in Reno, Tahoe since 1998 when the Reno Rage folded. So really cool to see pro hockey back in our area.
If you have not seen live hockey before and just on TV, it's so much different in person. So we encourage you to get up to Tahoe. We'll see what year we're going to be recapping the new GSR arena. Will it be 2025? Will it be 26 or 27? We will find out. But that wraps a bow on a heck of a year, my friend.
So again, if you have any issues with the show, you have to email Mike. It's mstephenson@sbgtv.com. But we did as best as we can. We tried to get everything into this 1 hour show.
Shout out to our entire Nevada Sportsnet team, especially our producer, Zach Larson, who put this thing together. Also director Jacob Smethurst. We'll see you in 2025, y'all.